Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World News. The European Commission spokesperson confirmed to TVP World that the Commission has approved Poland's request to allocate 6 billion euros of COVID recovery funds on defence projects, including the building of shelters and roads for tanks. According to EU rules, however, the money cannot be spent on armaments. The EU's National Recovery and Resilience Plan was meant to be used for reviving the economies of EU member states after the pandemic, but Poland didn't receive the funds due to a conflict between Brussels and the government in Warsaw at the time. Now, Poland will be able to shift the use of the funds from environmental programs to civilian defense and military infrastructure. So far, it is the only country to come up with such a proposal, but with the European Commission approving Warsaw's request, other capitals are expected to follow suit. Eligible member states can apply to get their share of funds before the deadline for the program in 2026. The European Union has officially adopted the Safe Defence Loan Programme. As part of the newly approved scheme, EU member states, as well as some countries allied to the bloc, will be able to make use of the 150 billion euro to finance defence purchases.
With threats from Russia on the rise, the EU has decided to open the floodgates for defence purchases.
The SAFE programme has been officially adopted. 150 billion euros has been allocated for the development of the defence industry, a massive success for Poland and its presidency of the Council of the EU.
Poland's Minister for the European Union, Adam Szłapka, also said that there are two specific points of the programme that are important to Poland. The ability to use EU funds to finance already signed defence contracts, as well as not having to gain approval from other EU members to use said funds. The latter point will only apply during the first year of operations of the scheme. The 150 billion euro will be accessible by EU member states, as well as Ukraine, Switzerland, Norway and Great Britain through a loan system with a 3.3% interest rate, discouraging countries which are able to fund these investments themselves at a better rate and encouraging countries like Poland to make use of the program. 65% of all funds must be used for defense products produced inside the European Union. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the EU has increased its defense expenditures by over 30%. However, EU leaders say this is not enough, mirrored by calls from NATO officials to also increase defense spending.
Russian warships and 3,000 troops have begun large-scale naval exercises in the Baltic Sea. Russian media report that the fleet will conduct artillery firing drills at sea and air targets, practice anti-submarine exercises and rehearse defensive maneuvers against unmanned marine vehicles. The fleet includes frigates, corvettes, anti-submarine vessels and minesweepers. They are being supported by 25 military aircraft and helicopters. The drills come at the time of increased tension in the Baltic Sea, following a series of suspected sabotage incidents in which underwater power lines, telecom links and gas pipelines have been damaged. Last week, Poland launched a military intervention after a ship from Russia's so-called Shadow Fleet, which is used to evade all sanctions, was spotted making suspicious maneuvers near an undersea power cable. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said at a press conference on Tuesday that his recent comments on the removal of restrictions on Ukraine's use of long-range missiles were nothing new, as the decision had been made months ago.
The issue of the range of the weapons used played a role a few months and a few years ago. As far as I know, and that's what I repeated yesterday, the countries that have imposed the range restrictions have long since given up these restrictions. In this respect, I described something in Berlin yesterday, which has been going on for months, that Ukraine has the right to use the weapons that it is supplied with. Also to use them beyond their own borders against military targets on Russian soil.
Russia on Tuesday hinted at a potential second round of peace talks with Ukraine, suggesting that Istanbul could be the next venue for dialogue. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, speaking after a meeting with his Turkish counterpart Hakan Fidan, proposed a second round of direct negotiations between Russia and Ukraine, with Istanbul as the preferred location. Lavrov also took the opportunity to criticize European leaders, calling out French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot for his remarks on the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Despite the possibility of renewed talks, Lavrov maintained a combative tone, reinforcing Russia's stance on the conflict and the rhetoric coming from Western leaders. This comes after Vladimir Putin claimed that Russia was ready to work on a ceasefire memorandum with Ukraine, a proposal that Ukrainian President Zelensky dismissed as a mockery of the international community, especially amid ongoing large-scale strikes by Russian forces just last week. The EU General Affairs Council is discussing accusations that Hungary has contravened fundamental EU values by passing laws that target LGBTQ+ people. It comes after Hungary passed legislation in March cracking down on pride marches and permitting police to use facial recognition technology to identify people taking part. Ahead of Tuesday's meeting in Brussels, 17 EU countries issued a joint statement saying they were highly alarmed by Hungary's actions, which run contrary to the fundamental values of human dignity, equality and respect for human rights. Malta, Greece and Cyprus joined the list this morning. Brussels and Budapest have repeatedly clashed over a series of issues, including Prime Minister Viktor Orban's pro-Russian stance, his approach to Ukraine and a self-declared peace mission conducted while Hungary chaired the rotating presidency of the Council of the EU. The process being discussed could lead to Hungary being stripped of its right to vote on EU decisions. But diplomats say there is unlikely to be enough support among the 27 member states to take that step. Polish President Andrzej Duda was welcomed in Berlin Tuesday morning by his German counterpart, Frank-Walter Steinmeier. Duda and Poland's First Lady Agata Kornhauser-Duda were received at the Bellevue Palace with military honors. The two presidents were set to hold discussions on commemorations for Polish victims of World War II, Polish-German cooperation and migration. After 2 5-year terms in office, Duda said earlier that his visit to Berlin would provide an opportunity for him to thank President Steinmeier for years of good relations and his commitment to Polish-German issues. Andrzej Duda and Frank-Walter Steinmeier also discussed the topic of honoring Polish victims killed during Nazi Germany's rampage through Europe over 80 years ago. The pair also talked about possible reparations for damages Poland sustained at the hands of Nazi Germany during World War II. A man who fled Poland after going on the run over the death of a family of 3 in a high-speed car crash has been charged in connection with the accident. The prosecutor's office charged Sebastian M. with causing the fatal pile-up in December 2023. He has pleaded not guilty. The crash happened when a speeding BMW struck another vehicle, killing a married couple and their 5-year-old son. The driver fled Poland shortly after the crash. He was detained in the United Arab Emirates over the weekend and brought back to Poland on Monday. Prime Minister Donald Tusk thanked those involved in the operation, warned that anyone who runs from Polish justice will eventually be brought to account. And it will be all the news for now. Thank you for watching and stay with us for much more here on TVP World.